Hello everyone, today we're going to create this custom radio button, actually so-called custom radio button, um, without using any radio button. I know that sounds stupid, but that's what we are going to do, and that's why I'm here to do stupid stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so it's basically what it does. It's a radio button, a custom one, and it I don't know. What do you expect me to say? It's a radio button, guys. So let's dive into this and see how we do this.
First step is going to be creating a project itself. I'm going to use React boilerplate here and type in npx create React React app and name it button grp. You can name it whatever you want. It's going to take a bit here, and I'm going to pause the video and we're going to continue after it's done. As you can see, it's over, and there's a bunch of instruction on how to build and how to start the application, but we're not going to use them. But keep in mind that if you're going to use npx, you should have Node installed on your computer, and then you can use it. Okay, let's go into our project folder, and here I can, if you have Visual Studio installed, you can right click here and use open with code. It will open the current directory as your workspace, so you don't have to do anything else. Right here, let's start the program and start cleaning up some stuff. npm start. It's going to start a browser and automatically start that for us. Okay. So at its continue to starting, we're going to clean some things up here in app.js. You can get rid of this because we don't need it. Rename this to app lowercase. It doesn't really matter, I just like it to be lowercase. And as you can see, it's up and running. If we write something here, for example, hello there, and press Ctrl S, you can see the changes are hot reloaded actually here. So we can get rid of this, we don't want that. And inside app.css we're going to delete everything too, and let's do a bit styling here. First of all, we're going to eliminate our margins and paddings on the elements like this. It tells the page actually to remove any padding, any margin from all the elements unless we give it some. Okay, so let's jump back here and style the app div. I'm going to set the position to absolute and fit it to the left and the top side of the browser window. Left is going to be 0, top is going to be 0, and stretch it all over the page with 100%, height 100%, and like this. Okay, now we are going to define some variables with which hold our colors inside. So I'm going to come here, roots, and define my variables. I've got them already here. As you can see, we have 3 variables: primary, secondary, and the background. The name says everything about them, but we're going to use the secondary for when the button is idle, and the primary for when it's selected, and the background. I don't have to describe anything about it, it said itself. So we're going to use it here. Background color is going to be var and background, and as we hit Ctrl S, you see the changes. Okay, we're going to set the context of this div into center. So we set the display to flex and justify content center. Align content, align item to center, and we're good to go. Now let's jump here and create our let's jump here and create our component. We're going to delete this, and here we're going to create new file. You can use this or press Ctrl P and or you can press F1 and type new file. Oops. New file and name it. I'm going to name it btngp. Keep in mind you should start it with camel case, the function. I don't think you have to do it on the name itself, but it's good to name your components, start your name, component names with capital letter. So .js here, and we are going to use style modules, CSS modules actually, and we need something like this btn dot btngp dot module dot css. Keep in mind if you're going to use CSS modules, you should name them like this, otherwise it's not going to work. So we're going to import that here, but first let's create a React component. I'm going to use snippets for this purpose, and props. We're going to need the props later. Import styles. You can name this whatever you want. Styles from btngp.module.css, and that's it. Right in here we're going to need something. Let me define something first. This component takes an array of objects and convert them, actually renders them into the custom radio button which we are aiming to do. So let's define our dummy values here. We are going to receive them later on from the user on the component defined when the component is defined inside the dummy, actually inside the component, app component. So value is going to be an array of objects which contains of ID and value. Value could be everything or anything you want. I'm going to use emojis. To use emojis inside the Visual Studio, you can just copy and paste them here, and if you don't have the emoji keyboard or something, you can use this extension which I use, emoji. Let me check that. Yeah, emoji snippets. You install this and you can use it. There's a lot of other extensions, but I rather to use this. So here I use this and type, for example, Apple. You can see the emojis pop up. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this 4 times. Here I'm going to pineapple, maybe a peach here, and another banana. Yeah. So we have our values here, and we are going to map them right here like this. If you open curly braces, you can type JavaScript code, and I'm going to do it right now. Value.map, which iterates in all of the objects inside the array, and I'm going to pass the value inside this namespace and return PID with class name of btn. And we are going to set the styles and class from this module later on. So first let's render the objects here and close our div or div tag. Oops, what am I doing? And pass the v dot value here. Okay. Right now, if we save everything, we should see nothing because we haven't used our components yet. So you can do this in a hard way or easy way. Of course, I'm going to do it in an easy way. btngp, and it will automatically import that for me. I'm going to close this and Control S. So we have an error. Yeah, naming error. btn gp dot module dot css. Am I doing wrong here? Let me test this. What's the problem? Oh, so here's the problem. I forgot to point to it in the right way. I just typed the name, so you should use this, which points to the current directory. So as you can see, we have our values here, but they don't do anything yet. They just being rendered out here. So we're going to do a bit styling on them, but first we are going to give this div a class name of container. And okay, so to use the modules, all you have to do is use the styles. It's actually a object which contains the class names. The class names are being attached to a random character which prevent the class name to be conflicted with other components. For example, if we have a container here and we use this btn group with this component we just created here second time, the container class on them is not going to be conflicted. Just take this here before we proceed. We have a container here and we have a container here. Okay, if we are going to style them differently, it's not going to work because they use the same class name and we cannot apply other styles and different styles to them. So modules help us prevent that by using them like this. If I delete this and type container here, you just type styles and the class name here, container, which we are going to define in here, and replace this with styles.btn. So right in here we're going to style this container display flex. Flex is default by row, yeah, and let me remove this display flex and overflow hidden. Margin we're going to give 10 pixels to each respective side, and background color of variables. It was secondary, I guess. Yeah, now it's good to go. Okay, keep that in mind that the variables are defined here and they are accessible in all the coming CSS after this because they are defined inside the root. Yes. So let's move on onto the BTNs. I'm going to give them a padding. First of all, let me display them to flex just for content center, just to center everything. Oops. Center, align content, align item center, and padding of maybe 1 rem. Yeah, that's a lot. Maybe 1 rem on the sides and half of rem units on the top and bottom. Yeah, that seems better. Font size, font size is going to be maybe 1.3 rem. I don't know, 1.4 seems good. We need to, the margin, it's supposed to be border radius, my mistake. Border radius here, yep, now it's good. So we're going to change the cursor, so the cursor is going to be pointer when we go on them, and we need a hover effect. btn.hover color or background. Actually, it's not on. The background color is not on the BTNs. We're going to move this here and change that and give it a transition of background. Oh my god. I cannot type. Background color and 5 seconds and change the color here to primary. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, it's working now. I think it's fine with styling right now. All we have to do is to create the active and background color is going to be primary on active ones. What does this do? It actually says that if any elements has the button class and at the same time has the active class, it should be marked with this. It should be applied this CSS to that component. Now we're going to test that like this. We're going to add active manually actually here. If we, as you can see, the class names are some random characters attached to the class name itself and the component itself. It's just some good stuff. If we have at active, nothing is going to happen because the class name of active here is going to be randomized like the other stuff. So all we got to do is to come here, and it's kind of not a usual way to do this, but I'm going to do it for test purposes. Active, and as you can see, they are all now active. So as you can see, the active class name is something like this. If I delete that, you can see it's not active anymore. So I'm going to delete this, and let's get back to the components themselves. Here we need to use use effect. Oh, sorry, use state port state from React. Actually, we're going to use the use state inside here, inside the component itself, and use state. I'm going to name this current, and it's going to be set current. And initialize value is going to be value first element of the value dot id. We're going to save the ID of the current item selected here. Refresh that, it should be fine. Which is 1, and I forgot to change this, so I will do it right now. And if we come down here inside the map function, we can define something like this. Let's say some conditional rendering here. Apply some conditional rendering here. With the, you can check if current is equal to v.id. You should add the styles.active. Otherwise, nothing. And as you can see, the first one is activated because it's the first inside the array, and it's going to be set here and checked here. So now we should add the onClick function, so when we click on them, they change. So we come here inside this. Oh, actually, I forgot to give it a key. When you map something and render it to the page in React, you should give it a key property, so it will manage which item to remove and add in future. So I'm going to pass in, if you add another parameter here, it's going to be the index of the current loop, current child's index. Actually, I'm going to pass it in here. It's not a good way to do that. You would want to use ID maybe here, but it's a good workaround when you're trying just to get the results done. But keep that in mind, it's not a good idea to use this. And yet I'm going to use it. So key equals to I, and we're going to have onClick function here, which will be set to onClick, and we are going to define onClick right here. Ignore the message. We should define the function somewhere here. Let me clean up this a bit. Function onClick, and we don't need the pass parameters, and we're going to set this on actually we could pass the value here because we're going to change we're going to need this later, the value, and receive that here, and set the current value to v.id, and it should work right now. What just happened? Too many render. Oh my bad. It should be like this, something to this. Yeah. It doesn't actually matter. It should be something else like this. It could work. I don't have to pass anything, and it should work right now. Yeah, as you can see, we changed everything. We can change this and it will work. So let me make it a little bit shorter. Yeah, that's better. Or maybe 2.25 maybe. Yeah, it's good. So it's all working, but we don't get any results as someone who just cleared something like this, created something like this, and we are not getting any results. So first of all, we're going to come over here and pass something like this value. We're going to take the value from the user or whoever that declares this, and pass it as a property. Value is going to be set to, I'm going to cut this from here, paste it right here, and it's going to be value. And we're going to get a function back, which is going to be called onChange, is equals to the function that we are going to pass here. This function. Oops. Function. You can call this whatever you want. I'm going to call this change, and it takes the parameter that changed, the value that changed. It's actually going to be this. So let's get back to the component itself. We're going to receive this too. Here, value and on change. The emoji. Keep that in mind. If we define this like this, define it this way, if we pass null or we don't even pass this, we're going to get some errors. You can use the props like this and then check them right here and check this if props dot value like this, but in this case I'm sure I'm going to pass the values here, so I don't really care right now. And there we go. Now after the click that has happened, we should call the onChange function here like this and give it the value we fetched from the array. And now if we come here and I don't know, maybe type something to console here, clicked, changed, and the value itself, if we refresh the page and come to the console, you can see that we received the value over here. So let's show the value on the application page. I'm going to use h2 here and use effect state. I keep confusing them. Use state from React, and right down here I'm going to use state, and we can name it whatever we want. I'm going to set that to value. Initial value is going to be value dot value. Yeah. We take the whole object as the current one, and when it changes here, we're going to set value to 3, and here we can display the value dot sorry, the value, the names. We have value over here. We should rename that actually. We'll rename this to objects and pass that over here. And if you come here and type value dot value, we get that. So it needs a bit styling, but that's alright. Actually, we could display the ID, but we don't need that. We don't need to display the ID here. So let's style this. here. It's all inside the app, so we can change the app's display to flex. It's already to flex, and flex direction to column. I should fix that, yeah. And it's H2, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. It's not a good idea to change all the H2s in the page, but since there's not going to be anything else, I'm just going to go on straight style the H2 element. Font size to maybe 100 pixels or 5 rems. Is that good? Yes, that's good. Padding bottom 10 px. Keep that in mind, we can use that here with row gap 10 px. Let's see that. I'm going to set that to 2 rems. That's good. And that's going to be color. It's emoji right now, but if we use the text, the color will be like, I don't want that because it's not in harmony with the page. So I'm going to set that to I don't know, maybe primary color, yeah, or white, I don't know, anything you want. And I'm going to set the font family here. Set app to Brixton. I like that. It's a good font. Brixton. Keep that in mind. I have this installed on my computer. If you want this to work, you should import it inside your application. But it works because I have that installed on my computer. So if you refresh the page, you can see everything works perfectly, and you can reuse this component actually. If I hold Alt and Shift and press the arrow key top or bottom, you get the duplicated line. So unchanged is going to stay the same, but the values are going to change. So I'm going to use names here, objects, names. I don't know, Rahim, John, Alex. Maybe I don't know if I'm writing that right or whatever. Who cares? Okay. So if I press save and give the name here, you can see it changed. Actually changed here. I'm going to change the color here to white, so you can see that it's a little bit better here. And color white. And so this didn't work. I don't know why. That's weird. Let me check this. So I'm going to apply that right here. See if that takes effect. Yeah, now it's working. So as you can see, you can use everything you want here. You can combine emojis and actually everything you want. I mean, it's shown here. If you want, you can structure more complicated arrays and objects here and pass them and change the corresponding display functionalities here, so you get the results you want. But for this video, that's all. So there's another thing I want to say. I'm going to upload more videos about the React, about the programming stuff and everything actually in programming and web development, maybe client development. So like, subscribe, and of course leave some comments. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what videos you want me to make for you, what tutorials you want. Okay, so have a good day, night, wherever you are.